Welcome back to Holy Ground Hot Takes, where three travelers on the journey come alongside you to help break open the scriptures for the upcoming Sunday's readings. Join us here each week as we talk about the scriptures, our lives and ministry, and whatever else we think about. Thanks for joining us, and let's get into this week's Holy Ground Hot Takes Easter edition. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Holy Ground Hot Takes. This is our Easter edition, and we hope you're enjoying this extended look at scriptures with myself and Karen and Anne. And we are in the third Sunday, I just had to look to make sure, of Easter. In full disclosure, we're actually filming this in March. So we're actually still in the Lenten season where we're filming this. We're fast forwarding a little to the Easter season altogether. So let's begin looking at the gospel, which is one of my personal favorites we get to hear, at least so far. What are you guys' thoughts on this gospel from John?
Dude, I love it. This gospel is really special to me because I had a really cool prayer moment about this gospel. Like years and years ago, we did a Transfiguration staff retreat day, and it was hosted at the house of some of our parishioners. And at the time, I think my youngest was still an infant and my oldest was probably like preschool age. So I wasn't sleeping a lot at night ever. I was working full time, and just like I showed up at this retreat and I didn't know what we were going to be reading. But the scripture we were reflecting on was breakfast on the beach with Jesus. And I had just that moment that morning had a moment where I was like trying to get out the door and feed everybody and and I was like, oh, I just wish someone would make me breakfast. That was my moment before I left the house in the morning. And I show up at this retreat and they gave out this painting. I don't know if you can see it great, but it's like Jesus on the beach and he's just like, he's waiting for me. He's got a little fire going and he's looking out over the water. And I was just like, oh, don't we all just sometimes need like Jesus to just show up for us and wait until we, whatever the fishing is that we're doing, just like said, I just come sit and have a moment, right? And that day I remember just reflecting on that scripture passage, and like I went into one of the guest rooms in this house of our parishioners and I took a nap, and it was like just what I needed that day. And so I always think about, I mean, we talk about like the boat and the catch of fish and everything, but for me it's just the moment that like Jesus is waiting for you on the shore. It's just like, pull in.
So I love my movies and my cartoons and everything, and all I could think about was Forrest Gump jumping off the boat when he saw Lieutenant Dan. And Peter, he's just like, oh my gosh, I think it's Jesus. Let me just not wait. And how excited he was to be in the presence of Jesus again. And, who cares what happened to the boat? He didn't, he's just like, he was.
That guy's always jumping out of boats. He jumps out of boats like,
what the heck? Hope the water was warm. But, going further into the scripture, when Jesus asked him, do you love me? 3 times. And it's like, well, duh. Like, yes, I do. I just jumped off the boat for you and I've done all this other stuff. But the correlation of Peter denying Jesus 3 times and then moving ahead when he understands his mission and accepts the love of Jesus 3 times. I just thought that was really a transformational, beautiful insight. Like Jesus is always there. Even, he still loved Peter after he denied him. He just proves that Jesus will always be there for us, regardless of what we do, or if we're in those moments that Jesus is like, okay, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for you. Come hang out with me. So I just love that correlation and that transformation that happened with Peter.
Yeah. The one of the things and I don't know if we ever get this answer, but like, well, why were they fishing? Like how did they, and I almost feel like maybe they had we're scared and like, we're just gonna go back to what we know. And like how often I think in my life, right? Like it's sometimes so easier to go back to the thing I know and am comfortable with than to do something new. And it was like Jesus be like, like we're not done. Like you're coming back here. We're gonna eat, we're gonna talk, and I'm gonna get you back doing what I need you all to be doing. I also always laugh about like they never like for fishermen, apparently they weren't very good because he not catching anything. Again, I say this as a wife of a husband who loves to fish, who never catches anything. So like I feel for them, but I always like it's like he needs to show up to make sure they catch food. But I just like that part always makes me giggle a little. Like again, but that harkening back to their original call, right? It's just like this confirmation that this is what I'm calling you to do. Oh, I was gonna say, and then we fast forward or rewind, depending to the first reading again, where we're in Acts, which is after all this has taken place. So any thoughts on that or on our second reading today?
Well, we've been talking about the transformation of the apostles, after Pentecost. And, but I think in this conversation with Peter and Jesus, where he's like, feed my lambs. Do you love me? Feed my lambs. And there's a line in there that, when you're older, someone will tie a rope around you and take you where you don't want to go. And like an understanding that to follow is going to mean, conforming with our hearts with Jesus's suffering. And that as the leader of the church, he's going to suffer. And he accepts that, 3 times. It's like he's making that vow with Jesus on the beach there. And in the reading today from Acts, you see, the apostles are, they're put kind of, not really on trial, but they're like, we told you what was going to happen if you kept talking about Jesus. And they're like, yep, we're only happy we can suffer for, to share Jesus's love. And it's just powerful. And it makes me think about, as someone who like spends a lot of time and energy and passion inviting young people and families to experience the love of God, and giving the invite and setting the table for this to happen, that sometimes the invitation is not accepted. And how sometimes I just feel like I feel like I have the heart of Jesus in those moments when people aren't able to accept his love and to accept that call that Peter did. Yeah, I don't know if you guys had moments like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I found the second to last line where they said, they rejoice knowing they have been worthy to suffer dishonor. It's like worthy to suffer dishonor. And I think that, Anne, going back to what you were saying, like sometimes I do feel like I'm worthy to suffer. Like I'm trying to invite people and want them to share in this awesomeness, and they're just not ready yet. And it's like, okay, well, I'm still gonna try, so I'll be back. But there's so many life experiences, and how do we continue to stand firm to be able to suffer dishonor for the sake of Jesus? I found that really interesting. I never thought of it that way or took it like that. And I also love the fact when they're like, we told you to stop. It's like my kids, like guys, stop. Okay. And then they do it again. It's like, hello, did you not hear me? But my kids do not have a mission of good when they're told to stop, right? Like Peter's like, I'm not just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I guess it's one way of accepting not stopping. But like, all I could think of is me with my kids, like, please stop. Like all these, if you don't, I'm gonna, and then you never do. It's like, open the line.
Oh yeah. And yet they persisted.
For the greater good.
They were told what would happen.
I love it. They got schooled. It's like...
I love that idea. I think too, the idea of, like we see it professionally, but I can also think of it like in my personal life, right? Like so many of my friends who aren't Catholic, who are non-religious, right? Like, and they look at me sometimes like I've grown two heads, like, oh no, like I don't go out on Saturday night late because I am in church on Sunday morning, you know, or I remember one of my friends once saying like, well, you dress very conservative. I'm like, like, you know, like those little things in our lives, right? That sometimes it can feel like you're this outsider, you can feel weird, or you can feel like you don't belong. And I think about these apostles, right, who are doing this wonderful work, right? And they're still being told, like, we told you to stop. Like, you're pushing against the culture, you're pushing against what we want in this, you know, town or village, wherever they were, and you gotta stop. And they're like, no, like this is what we're called to do. And I think, you know, again, as much as I don't like Revelations, in the second reading, we get this beautiful view again, like you're doing all of this, even when it's hard, even when even your daily life, you know, even saying like, well, I'm not going out on Saturday night because I'm going to church on Sunday or whatever it might be. Why are we doing all this ultimately for this beautiful, big, you know, 160 view of what is going to happen or what we will live in someday?
Yeah. And I think, you know, going back to the continuing with the second reading, it's like, isn't it a lot of societal versus our faith, you know, like that just kind of keeps bumping together. Like we have all these verbs of sight, you know, we're going to see all this, and look, and this is what's going to happen, but we don't hear the verbs of hearing, you know, because I think we're so inundated with noise in our society that, you know, just earlier this morning, I was with a bunch of people and there was just silence for like 2 minutes. No one talked. And we were all just kind of in our own little prayer mode. And I didn't want to leave that. I was content to stay quiet, but I was leading this little session. And so I knew that people like had to leave and get on with their day. But I made a joke of it. I was like, I could have stayed in that silence because we don't get it a lot. You know, we're sometimes the silence is disturbing, you know, it's very uncomfortable, but when you present it with you know, you're not really alone, you're always in the presence of God, and just taking those moments for yourself. So yeah, are we quiet enough to hear the voice of God? You know, or do we need to have that big forehead V8 slap?
I just love that in the, you know, the Revelation reading for this week, it's this image of like the whole universe is unified in praising God. Like we're all doing it together. And that's so far from where we are, you know, so just that, to have that vision of future, like, yeah, like unity and praise and joy all is one. It's just, we can't even imagine that. You know, when people talk about Revelation and like, you know, the prophetic nature of it and like, you know, thinking about the end of time, I think a lot of people think about like, well, like nuclear war or like the planet gets destroyed or like, you know, like the end of humanity. But what he's talking about is like the end of cosmic time. Like that's the end of, like, so much bigger than what, you know, it's not about what we're going to do to ourselves. It's about like when God is done with this whole experiment of creation, I guess. then where are we? And
all right, I'm done. We try so hard, you know, to be ready or to form our families or help form other people's children. I mean, in ministry, for us, we're taking on that extra role. You know, my sister's a social worker, and I was like, you know, maybe I need to be like doing it. Maybe I need to be in the bunker and helping people maneuver in society. And my sister looks at me and she's like, you're showing Jesus's love to others. And that's what it's about. And I was like, oh, you're pretty smart. But you know, it's, if we all just acted like Jesus and saw God in everybody, then I don't think we would be able to consciously act the way we do sometimes. And I'm talking more like politically, not us three, but it's like, why don't we get it more?
Or yeah, because like politically, people don't even look 5 years down the road, right? Or in any institution, you can't even plan for 5 years down the road. And here we have the vision that's like for, the really big picture. It's challenging.
Right. Whew. Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I know.
We didn't solve the world problems yet, so we still got a couple more weeks.
Yeah, we're just, we're starting the Easter season still, kind of. But I think that is a good conclusion point. Does anyone have any final thoughts or things you want to say? All right. Well, thanks for joining us again for this week. And we will see you back next week for more hot takes on the Easter season.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for our hot takes on these readings. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment below this video and tell us your thoughts on this Sunday's readings. As always, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you know every time we post a new hot takes. And as always, until we meet again on this journey, have a wonderful week and many blessings.